Hey everyone, welcome back. Tonight, we're taking a trip you definitely didn't sign up for, straight into the year 1327. Before we dive into the mud, misery, and medieval madness, do me a favor. Tap that like button if you're brave enough to stick around. And if you haven't subscribed yet, why not? It's free, and trust me, you're going to want company when walking through centuries this grim. So congratulations. You've just woken up in the Middle Ages. No time machine, no warning, no clean sheets. Just a gasp of cold, sour air, and the sudden realization that your back is resting on something lumpy, damp, and very much alive. And no, it's not a feather bed. It's a mattress stuffed with straw, crawling with things you don't want to name out loud. Drop a comment below. What's the very first modern comfort you'd miss if you were dropped into this world? Now dim the lights, maybe grab a blanket, a clean one, unlike theirs, and get ready. Because this isn't the romanticized medieval fairy tale you've seen in movies. This is the raw, rough, unwashed reality of life in the 14th century. And trust me, you wouldn't last a day. It's not a mattress. It's a pile of rotting straw stuffed inside a burlap sack, crawling with fleas, mites, and beetles that have made your spine their new kingdom. There's no pillow, no blanket you'd want to call your own. Just a woolen shroud so thick with grease and sweat it could stand up on its own and walk out the door. And the smell? Oh, the smell. It hits you like a shovel to the face. A swamp of human stench, goat breath, fermented cabbage, and something in the corner that might be a dead rat. Or last week's dinner. There are no windows. Just a cloth nailed over a hole in the wall. The only light comes from a guttering tallow candle that burns with the fury of regret, dripping hot fat onto a wooden table already scarred by decades of knife marks and spilled ale. You blink. You breathe, and immediately regret both. This isn't a dream. This is medieval life. And if you think you'd survive even one day here, you wouldn't. Not even close. Your first instinct is to get up, stretch, maybe find a bathroom. But the floor is wet. Not from rain, from last night's soup, spilled milk, and whatever your neighbor's pig dragged in. It's a slick, muddy paste crawling with insects and something fuzzy growing near the wall. You take a step. Your bare foot lands on something sharp. A splinter? A bone? You don't know. You just know it hurts. And there's no such thing as cleaning up. No antiseptic. No bandages. Just a rag that hasn't been washed since the last plague outbreak, and even that might be an improvement. You look around. The room is about the size of a modern walk-in closet, but it's shared with your parents, 2 younger siblings, an uncle who never leaves, and a goat. Yes, a goat. Tied to the far post, chewing on a piece of moldy bread, staring at you like you're the weird one. This is normal. Their communities weren't built on shared land. They were built on shared survival. They watched over the sick, pooled resources, trusted that helping a freezing neighbor today meant someone might help them tomorrow. Their faith, too, was a kind of endurance, woven into daily life, not just out of fear, but out of hope. Fragile, stubborn hope that tomorrow might be a little warmer, that after 100 dark nights, spring would come again. That life would find a way to push through the frozen ground. And somehow it did. Because of their sacrifices. Because of their unglamorous victories, surviving one more night, One more storm, future generations thrived. Bit by frozen bit, they pushed humanity forward. Enduring winters, their ancestors could barely survive until warmth and comfort became common expectations, not distant dreams. Their blood, sweat, and ingenuity are stitched invisibly into the lives we live now. Every cozy blanket, every warm house, every lazy winter evening spent sipping tea under soft lights. All of it is the end result of countless medieval peasants who refused to give in to the cold. So the next time the wind howls outside your double-paned window, maybe spare a thought for them. The nameless, fearless ones who turned shivering survival into a living legacy. One ember, one breath, one stubborn heartbeat at a time. Now, quick question before we go. Did you know that a civilization in ancient Peru Carol thrived 5,000 years ago without war, without weapons, and without kings? They built pyramids, mapped the stars, and lived in harmony with the desert. A story for another night. Or what about Anne Boleyn, how her fight for power changed England forever? That one's chilling in a whole different way. In fact, the only thing that isn't normal is you, standing there, barefoot, blinking like you've never seen a dirt floor before. Because in 14th century Europe, this isn't poverty. It's life, and you're already failing it. Nature calls. And it's not asking nicely. There's no bathroom, no flush, no seat, no privacy. If you're lucky, there's a bucket behind the house. But it's already full. And the smell? Imagine a dumpster fire marinating in sewage, then lit on fire again. So what do? You grab a wooden pail, walk to the edge of the yard, and dump it into the street. And before you do, you're supposed to yell "Gardez-vous," Old French for watch out below, but no one ever listens. The streets aren't paved. They're open sewers. A bubbling river of human waste, animal dung, rotting food, and whatever the butcher tossed out after closing. You walk through it every day, barefoot, because shoes? If you're a peasant, you don't own any. And if you do, they're made of untreated leather, stitched with horsehair, and offer about as much support as a banana peel. Every step is a gamble. One wrong move, and you're slipping face first into a puddle of yesterday's chamber pot. And don't even think about washing your hands. Soap doesn't exist. Water is dangerous. And the idea of hygiene? They think cleanliness causes disease. Seriously. They believe if you wash your body, you open your pores. And that's how the bad air gets in. So instead of bathing, they rub themselves with a cloth and pray. Most haven't seen clean water since birth. And you? You're already itching. Fleas have found your ankles. Lice are moving into your hair. Bed bugs are throwing a party in your back. And this is just the first hour. Breakfast. You're hungry. Maybe food will help. You sit down, or rather squat, near the fire, where a blackened pot hangs from a hook. Inside, pottage. A thick gray sludge made of boiled turnips, stale barley, and whatever was left in the cupboard. It's been cooking in this same pot for weeks. New ingredients just get dumped on top. It's less of a meal, more of a science experiment. You're handed a wooden spoon. The bread beside you is the color of dirt and about as soft as a brick. It's made from rye, sawdust, and sometimes ground up clay to make it last longer. You try to cut it. You can't. You end up chipping a piece off with a knife and hoping it doesn't break your teeth. And drink? Water is a death sentence. It's full of parasites, sewage, and God knows what else. So you drink beer. Weak, sour ale with so little alcohol it wouldn't get a toddler buzzed. But at least it won't kill you today. Kids drink it too. Everyone does, even nuns. Because the brewing process boils the water, making it safer than anything else. So yes, you're starting your day at 6 with a beer. Not because you're fun, because you're trying not to die. And meat? Forget it. Most peasants don't eat meat more than a few times a year. If you're lucky, you get a scrap on Christmas or Easter. Spices, a pinch of pepper costs more than your weekly wages. So you chew your gritty bread, sip your sour beer, and wonder if the thing floating in the pottage is an eyeball or just a very old onion. Breakfast isn't a meal. It's a survival test, and you're already losing. Now it's time to get dressed. Except you don't have multiple outfits. You have one. A rough wool tunic that you've worn every day for months. It hasn't been washed. It can't be. There's no soap, no washing machine, no hot water. You'd have to haul water from the river, heat it over a fire, scrub it with ashes, and hang it to dry in a climate where the sun shows up about 3 days a year. So your clothes stay on. They stiffen with sweat, crust over with dirt, and eventually become their own ecosystem. Underwear, optional. If you're lucky, you've got a linen undertunic. If not, you're going commando under layers of scratchy, smelly wool that rubs your skin raw, and shoes, if you have them, they're falling apart. No arch support, no cushioning. Just leather stretched over wood, held together with twine. Most people go barefoot, through mud, through dung, through puddles that could give you typhus, and the result? Your feet are a battlefield, cuts, blisters, infections. One untreated wound, and you're looking at gangrene, but you don't stop. Because if you don't work, you don't eat. And if you don't eat, you starve. Simple as that. Now, let's talk about your teeth. Because in about 5 minutes, you're going to wish you hadn't. There's no toothbrush, no paste, no floss. Some people chew on a twig or rinse with vinegar. Most just let their teeth rot. By age 25, your smile looks like a haunted crypt. Cavities? Everywhere. Gums. Swollen. Bleeding. Falling off. And that pain? It's constant. A throbbing, pulsing agony that makes you want to rip your own jaw off. And guess what? Someone probably will. Because when a tooth goes bad, the only cure is to pull it out. With pliers, by a barber, in a room lit by candlelight, with zero anesthesia, no numbing, no mercy. Just a strong grip, a sharp tug, and a prayer you don't pass out from the pain. And if the infection spreads, sepsis, fever, delirium, death, all because of a cavity. And kissing? Good luck. Halitosis is the default setting. If you're single, no one's judging your smile. They're judging how many goats you own. So yes, your mouth is a war zone. And it's losing. Now it's time to work. And by work, we mean labor until your body gives out. You're a peasant. That means you work someone else's land. From sunrise to sunset, 6 days a week, no breaks. No sick days, no HR department to complain to. Your tools? A wooden plow, a rusty sickle, and whatever bones are still intact in your body. You dig ditches, pull weeds, carry water, plow fields with no gloves, no back support, no ergonomic design. Your spine curves like a question mark. Your hands are cracked, calloused, bleeding. And if you're a woman, their communities weren't built on shared land. They were built on shared survival. They watched over the sick, pooled resources, trusted that helping a freezing neighbor today meant someone might help them tomorrow. Their faith, too, was a kind of endurance, woven into daily life, not just out of fear, but out of hope. Fragile, stubborn hope that tomorrow might be a little warmer, that after 100 dark nights, spring would come again, that life would find a way to push through the frozen ground. And somehow it did. Because of their sacrifices, because of their unglamorous victories, surviving one more night, one more storm, future generations thrived. Bit by frozen bit, they pushed humanity forward. Enduring winters, their ancestors could barely survive until warmth and comfort became common expectations, not distant dreams. Their blood, sweat, and ingenuity are stitched invisibly into the lives we live now. Every cozy blanket, every warm house, every lazy winter evening spent sipping tea under soft lights. All of it is the end result of countless medieval peasants who refused to give in to the cold. So the next time the wind howls outside your double-paned window, maybe spare a thought for them. The nameless, fearless ones who turned shivering survival into a living legacy. One ember, one breath, one stubborn heartbeat at a time. Now, quick question before we go. Did you know that a civilization in ancient Peru Carol thrived 5,000 years ago without war, without weapons, and without kings? They built pyramids, mapped the stars, and lived in harmony with the desert. A story for another night. Or what about Anne Boleyn, how her fight for power changed England forever? That one's chilling in a whole different way. Congratulations. You also cook, clean, care for children, feed animals, spin wool, and pretend your husband's lice infestation isn't slowly migrating to your side of the bed. Children start working at age 5. No school, no toys. Just a tiny rake and a dream of not dying before harvest. And if you're not a farmer, maybe you're a blacksmith. Great. You spend all day swinging a hammer in a shed with no ventilation, breathing in metal fumes, or a tanner. Even better. You work with animal guts, urine, and chemicals that burn your skin, all to make leather. Pay? Basically survival. Perks? Occasional bleeding, broken bones, and fevers you just sleep off. Because you can't afford to stop. And if you do, you're replaced. So you keep going. Back on fire. Hands blistered. Mind numb. Because in the Middle Ages, your job isn't a career. It's a slow-motion endurance test. Now, let's talk about the weather. Because it's not just cold or hot. It's punishment, winter. There's no insulation, no central heating. Your walls are wood with gaps big enough to throw a chicken through. Windows covered with cloth, not glass. The fire in the hearth is nice in theory. But firewood is expensive, and gathering it from the forest. Sometimes illegal. You can be executed for picking up the wrong stick. So you huddle near the dying embers, wrapped in your one damp wool tunic, praying your toes don't freeze off. Frostbite? They don't diagnose it. They call it bad luck. Summer? Not better. Your home turns into a clay oven. No fans, no cross breeze, and absolutely no deodorant. You sweat through your layers, but you can't take them off. Too much skin? Scandalous. Sunburn? Likely. Insect bites? guaranteed. Flies swarm your face. Mosquitoes buzz in your ears. And the smell of last week's goat stew still fermenting in the corner. It's your lullaby. And in the fields, the sun bakes you. No hat, no sunscreen. Just a straw hat if you're lucky, and even that looks like a desperate scarecrow. Heat stroke? They call it taking a bad turn. So you're either freezing in your own filth or sweating through your only socks while your thighs chafe into raw meat. And the one thing that never changes, your clothes still itch. Your food still tastes like wet burlap. And your next job is still waiting. Welcome to climate control, medieval style. There is none. Feeling thirsty? Want to splash water on your face? Too bad. Because in the Middle Ages, water is trying to kill you. That clear stream? Upstream, someone just dumped a chamber pot into it. Or a dead pig is rotting in it. Parasites, bacteria, and the entire microbial army of the Dark Ages are waiting in every sip. That's why everyone drinks beer, even kids, not for fun, for survival. Small beer, weak, low alcohol, is safer than water because it's boiled. Wine? Only if you're rich and don't care about functioning before noon. Bathing? In theory, yes. In practice? No. They believed washing opened your pores, and that's how disease got in. So staying dirty was healthier. So the church shut many down, even if you wanted to bathe. It's a full production. Haul water, boil it, fill a leaky wooden tub, pray no one else uses it first or worse after you. And rainwater? Collected in open barrels where birds poop, insects breed, and moss thrives. So whether it's going in your mouth, on your body, or on your crops, water is a gamble. One wrong sip, and you're spending your final days clutching your stomach, sweating, and wondering why you ever left the 21st century. You're sick now. You need a doctor. Too bad medicine in the Middle Ages is just polite torture with a theology degree. Diagnosis? Everything is caused by your humors being out of balance. Blood, phlegm, yellow bile, black bile. Too much blood? You have a fever. Cure? Bloodletting. Yes, they drain your life force into a bowl with a dull blade or a hungry leech. And who does it? Barber surgeons. Same guy who cuts your hair. Feeling sad? Excess black bile. Cure. Laxatives or prayers. And a priest already carving your coffin. Break a bone? No anesthesia. Knives not cleaned since the Crusades. Tools heated over fire, not for sterilization, but because they look scarier. Antibiotics? Centuries away. Germ theory? Not invented. They think disease comes from bad air or God being mad at your sins. Stomach ache must be your sinful thoughts. Hope you like confessing while vomiting. If you get worse, more leeches, crushed beetles, a priest giving last rites. And if you somehow survive, everyone assumes God took pity. The doctor takes credit. The leech gets promoted. So yes, in the Middle Ages, medicine is less about healing and more about surviving the cure. After a long day of labor, lice, and leeches, it's finally time to eat. You shuffle back to your hut, stomach growling, hoping for one moment of joy. Bad news. Your meal is probably trying to kill you. Food preservation? No fridges, no freezers, just salt, smoke, or hope. Your meat? Hanging for days, covered in flies, possibly shared with a rat. Bread? the cornerstone of the diet. But in bad harvests, they mix it with bark, sawdust, or clay. And if it's rye season? Bonus, ergot, a fungus that causes hallucinations, convulsions, and death. Like eating LSD-laced bread. Vegetables? Only in season. And what's always in season? Turnips. Boiled, mashed, or floating in pottage. The same pot that's been simmering since your great-grandfather's funeral. Fruit rots fast. Sugar, rare, expensive, hoarded by the rich. Dairy? Fresh milk spoils in hours, but you eat it anyway. Because the alternative is chewing your boot. And seasoning? Pepper, cinnamon, nutmeg? Worth more than gold. For peasants, flavor comes from onions, salt, if you're lucky, and pain. Most meals taste like wet burlap sprinkled with sadness, but food isn't just a health hazard. It's a political one. Game animals belong to the Lord. Poach a rabbit? You could be fined, imprisoned, or hanged. Yes, your dinner could get you executed. Their communities weren't built on shared land. They were built on shared survival. They watched over the sick, pooled resources, trusted that helping a freezing neighbor today meant someone might help them tomorrow. Their faith, too, was a kind of endurance, woven into daily life, not just out of fear, but out of hope. Fragile, stubborn hope that tomorrow might be a little warmer, that after 100 dark nights, spring would come again, that life would find a way to push through the frozen ground. And somehow it did, because of their sacrifices, because of their unglamorous victories, surviving one more night, one more storm. Future generations thrived. Bit by frozen bit, they pushed humanity forward. Enduring winters, their ancestors could barely survive until warmth and comfort became common expectations, not distant dreams. Their blood, sweat, and ingenuity are stitched invisibly into the lives we live now. Every cozy blanket, every warm house, every lazy winter evening spent sipping tea under soft lights. All of it is the end result of countless medieval peasants who refused to give in to the cold. So the next time the wind howls outside your double-paned window, maybe spare a thought for them. The nameless, fearless ones who turned shivering survival into a living legacy. One ember, one breath, one stubborn heartbeat at a time. Now, quick question before we go. Did you know that a civilization in ancient Peru Carol thrived 5,000 years ago without war, without weapons, and without kings? They built pyramids, mapped the stars, and lived in harmony with the desert. A story for another night. Or what about Anne Boleyn, how her fight for power changed England forever? That one's chilling in a whole different way. So as you sit down to your gray stew by flickering firelight, remember, every bite is a risk, but you eat anyway. Because in the Middle Ages, food doesn't nourish, it tests you. It's evening now. You've worked, suffered, and barely digested your suspicious stew. But don't relax, because God is watching. So is the priest. And your neighbor Agnes, who will absolutely rat you out if you miss Mass. In medieval Europe, religion isn't part of life. It is life. The church controls your calendar, your laws, your education, if you can read, your birth, marriage, death, everything. Miss prayer? Sin. Eat meat on Friday? Sin. Dream about your neighbor's wife? Double sin. And hell? It's real. Priests describe it in detail. Rivers of fire, lakes of boiling blood, demons with pitchforks. The plague might scare you, but eternal damnation? That keeps you awake. You can't read the Bible. It's in Latin, reserved for monks and nobles. You rely on the church to interpret everything. Crop failure, you didn't pray hard enough. Time to kneel harder. Tithes, 1/10 of everything you own. Wheat, eggs, chickens. If you have nothing, you're spiritually and financially doomed. Holidays? Holy days, not for fun. For Mass, fasting, confessing sins, and reminding yourself that joy is a dangerous indulgence. Question the church? Heretic. Burned. Witch? Drowned. Blasphemer? Flogged. So you go through the motions. Chant, bow, pray. Hope your soul, after enduring this dirt-covered life, lands in paradise. Because in the Middle Ages, God may be merciful. But the church, not so much. And if you thought this was rough, try surviving it as a woman. All the filth, famine, and fear, plus childbirth, subservience, and social invisibility. Being a woman in the Middle Ages is like playing life on hard mode with no save points. From birth, your path is set. Marry young, bear children, serve your husband, die tired. Education, unlikely. Unless you're noble and sent to a convent, your intellectual development stops at churning butter. Marriage at 12, normal. Pregnant by 14, expected. Love not required. Once married, you're your husband's property. Your job, produce heirs, feed everyone, keep the house, and not complain. Because complaining might get you branded a witch. And that comes with a complimentary drowning or burning. Childbirth, a death lottery, no prenatal care. No anesthesia. Midwives do their best, but one complication, and you're dead. Some survive 10 pregnancies. Many don't survive one. And after the baby, you're expected to nurse, cook, clean, and help in the fields, all while recovering. No breaks. No health insurance. Just pain and duty. Unmarried, suspicious, widowed, vulnerable, outspoken, dangerous. Women who didn't conform were accused of witchcraft, especially if they knew herbs, had a strong personality, or just looked at someone funny on a rainy Tuesday. Even in the church, your role is limited. Nuns live under strict rules. No speaking without permission. No freedom. Your spiritual worth, always ranked below men. So if you're a woman in the Middle Ages, you're expected to endure, obey, reproduce, and suffer, preferably while smiling. Because even in a world of universal suffering, women were expected to suffer gracefully. So far, you've battled filth, starvation, and social injustice. But just when you think your day can't get worse, here comes violence. Loud, bloody, and completely acceptable. The Middle Ages weren't peaceful. Law and order meant hoping the local lord isn't in a bad mood. Violence is everywhere. In the home, in the streets, on the battlefield. Even in line at the communal bread oven. Steal a loaf of bread, lose a hand, accused of lying, tongue pierced. Gossip too much. Meet the scold's bridle, a metal mask with a bar in your mouth. Accused of something serious? Welcome to trial by ordeal. Stick your hand in boiling water to retrieve a stone. If it heals in 3 days, you're innocent. If not, guilty, or get tossed into a river. Sink, innocent, and probably dead. Float, guilty, and punished anyway. It's like a medieval game show where the prize is survival and the host hates you. Executions, public events, hangings. Beheadings, burnings, crowds cheer, kids bring snacks, domestic violence, normal. Husbands are allowed to discipline their wives. Street fights, common. War, always simmering, so walk carefully. Keep your eyes down, and never trust anyone with a club. At this point, you've survived the lice, the leeches, and the threat of public disembowelment. But now comes the final chapter, death. If you're alive past 40, you're practically a celebrity. Average life expectancy, 30 to 40. But that's dragged down by infant mortality. Nearly half of all children died before age 5. No vaccines, no antibiotics, no hope. Survive childhood. You enter adulthood exhausted. By 25, your joints creak like a monastery door. You're missing teeth, fingers, and most of your optimism. Women? Childbirth is a leading cause of death. No pain relief. No medical help. Just prayer, hot water, and someone holding your hand as you bleed out. Men? Farming accidents, infections, drunken rage, or a crusade gone wrong. Even walking to market could be risky if you cross a bored bandit or angry tax collector. Death could come quietly, from the plague, from famine, from eating spoiled grain and hallucinating until you scream yourself to death. Funerals? If you're lucky, you get one. Their communities weren't built on shared land. They were built on shared survival. They watched over the sick, pooled resources, trusted that helping a freezing neighbor today meant someone might help them tomorrow. Their faith, too, was a kind of endurance, woven into daily life, not just out of fear, but out of hope. Fragile, stubborn hope that tomorrow might be a little warmer, that after 100 dark nights, spring would come again, that life would find a way to push through the frozen ground. And somehow it did, because of their sacrifices, because of their unglamorous victories, surviving one more night, one more storm. Future generations thrived. Bit by frozen bit, they pushed humanity forward. Enduring winters, their ancestors could barely survive until warmth and comfort became common expectations, not distant dreams. Their blood, sweat, and ingenuity are stitched invisibly into the lives we live now. Every cozy blanket, every warm house, every lazy winter evening spent sipping tea under soft lights. All of it is the end result of countless medieval peasants who refused to give in to the cold. So the next time the wind howls outside your double-paned window, maybe spare a thought for them. The nameless, fearless ones who turned shivering survival into a living legacy. One ember, one breath, one stubborn heartbeat at a time. Now, quick question before we go. Did you know that a civilization in ancient Peru Carol thrived 5,000 years ago without war, without weapons, and without kings? They built pyramids, mapped the stars, and lived in harmony with the desert. A story for another night. Or what about Anne Boleyn, how her fight for power changed England forever? That one's chilling in a whole different way. Bodies buried quickly to avoid disease. No embalming. No polished coffins. Just a hole, a prayer, and a shallow mound of earth. So yes, life was brutal, short, and constantly under siege. You didn't retire. You just stopped showing up. So how's your day been? You've woken up in filth, dumped waste into the street, eaten pottage with a rat's toenail in it, worked until your spine screamed, scratched through itchy wool, prayed not to get the plague, and narrowly avoided public execution for owning a squirrel. Welcome to one day in medieval Europe. Still dreaming of becoming a knight? Think again. That romanticized version, gallant swordsmen, noble ladies, feasts in candlelit halls, is a myth. The truth? The medieval world was gritty, cruel, and deeply unfair. Hierarchy was everything. Born poor, stay poor. Born rich, still one bad soup away from dysentery and a hasty burial. Even nobles weren't safe. Castles were drafty stone refrigerators with fleas, smoke, and politically motivated marriages. No modern medicine. No upward mobility. No internet to Google. What's this weird rash? You lived, suffered, worked, and died within 10 miles of where you were born. But here's the wildest part. Through all of this, people still laughed, sang, told stories, fell in love, and found meaning. Not because life was easy, because humans are stubborn like that. Even in the darkest chapters, they made space for light. So tonight, when you slip into your clean bed with indoor plumbing, antibiotics, and central heating, maybe say a quiet thank you to the modern world and to your ancestors who fought rats, famine, and feudalism, so you wouldn't have to.